UNLV travels to Sam Houston, well, I guess not to Sam Houston, to Houston, and bounces back against the Bearcats, showing a lot of improvement from week 0. But there's still a lot of room to grow. Let's break down this game. Let's get you out of here. Frustrating, but let's run. Folks, welcome into Let's Run Live, the post-game show, talking about UNLV's football's 38-21 win against Sam Houston. UNLV showed a lot of improvement from week 0 to this week 1 game in a lot of really important areas. Now, look, I get, and I know that I'm going to get a couple comments, and rightly so, about kind of the frustrating way that the third and fourth quarter went. Once UNLV went up 31-7, you could definitely see not just the players, but the coaches take their foot off the gas, get a little relaxed. And, credit to Sam Houston. They kept battling. They clearly, they kept fighting. They didn't want to give up. They didn't want the game to be a complete blowout. And they made it a 17-point win for UNLV ultimately, which I think is pretty close to what they got last week in their game against Western Kentucky. UNLV definitely made some mental mistakes in the second half that led to it being a closer margin than we would have liked. But again, guys, there was still so much improvement from week 0 that I feel like, regardless of the frustrating things that did happen in this game, and there were frustrating things, don't get me wrong, I think there are so many positives to take away that ultimately I still leave this game feeling a lot better about this team, a lot better about their future. Again, I never saw this team, as we're a shoo-in, we're going to be college football playoff contenders. I was never quite that high on this team. And I think there are still certainly a lot of areas of concern for the UNLV football team. But again, with all this improvements, you just have to say, there's a lot of good things going on here. And I guess we can talk about the game, go through it all. We will talk about each phase of the game and each of the players because I thought that several players, Anthony Calandria, Jet Thomas, Kevon Lee, a few of the defensive players, quite a few of them actually. I thought there were several guys on the defensive side of the ball that really showed a lot of improvements. Let's go through it. So early on in the game, UNLV goes down, and Jaden Bradley, which is interesting because I had thought that, like Troy Omieri or maybe JoJo Earl, I didn't peg Jaden Bradley as the guy that was going to be QB1. Wide receiver 1. But through 2 games, he absolutely has been. He's been an explosive downfield threat in that opening drive. I mean, he was lightning fast down the side. It was kind of just a go route, and he went for it. And Calandria had, I thought, an outstanding game outside of that one interception, which was disappointing. Jaden Bradley emerging as our wide receiver 1 is something very interesting to me and something I'm very happy about. I'm a little bummed about a couple of the other receivers. I feel like they're leaving some food on the table. There should be more. There should be some more players that are getting a bit more production from the wide receiver spot. But I would just say Jaden Bradley is big positive number 1. We have our first comment from Perry. Hi, Jason, an overall better performance tonight, but we kind of slacked off, not run the score. Hopefully we learn never give up. They didn't. Yeah, like I said, Sam Houston could have very easily given up, and they kept fighting. And that's a team that's they're going to be a 3 or a 4 win team this year. They're going to struggle, honestly. But ultimately, that's still a D1 team that is fighting. They lost a lot of production from their team last year. And I found there's not a ton of Sam Houston people that I interacted with, but the ones that I did, I found to be a really fun fan base and a really nice group of people. So all my best to Sam Houston. I think they were a very respectable opponent who played their hardest until the end. But we slacked off in the third and fourth quarter. I mean, no doubt. But still, far better than last week. I was actually thinking, and if you guys have any opinions about this, did you think that Sam Houston was a better team, more talented team than Idaho State? Because I'm not sure I did. I thought Idaho State, maybe not on the defensive side of the ball, but on the offensive side of the ball, maybe had a bit more talent. Blurt says, big improvement from the defense. Special teams starting to worry. Yeah, Troy Omier had a rough outing in that onside kick. Now, obviously, the UNLV defense picked up the slack and was able to fix that mistake of his that UNLV gave up an onside kick, which was just very frustrating. But I guess we'll see. Adrian Guzman says no, so you don't think that Sam Houston is as talented as Idaho State? I'm guessing. I kind of got that feel too. I feel like Idaho State would probably beat Sam Houston. I think the Rebels probably could have beaten Sam Houston by two or three more scores, to be honest with you, tonight. I mean, I thought they were really struggling a lot of the game. And UNLV was the benefactor of several plays in the second and third quarter that made the score, gave us some breathing room that maybe we weren't expecting. There was some bad calls both ways, though. I mean, UNLV was definitely on the opposite side of some horrific officiating tonight as well. And I think that once the clock stopped working, the whole flow of the game kind of got messed up. The guys were like, let's just end this game. And I can't blame them. I was sitting there and I was just like, guys, let's end this game. Let's get this game over with. Like, can we just run out the clock? Like, can Sam Houston just, say, we're done, I'm done. Sam Houston was more talented, but they replaced everyone as well. Yeah, I mean, Sam Houston had some talent. I think that they're probably top to bottom more talented than Idaho State, but Idaho State definitely had more like standout skill players. I think Idaho State's receiving core was really good. Um, yeah, I mean, and like Adrian says, I mean, the clock just stopping working in the fourth quarter through. I One of the most humorous things. My mother and I were laughing hysterically when they called a delay of game on Sam Houston, but there wasn't a clock. So how is Sam Houston supposed to know, like what the play clock is if there's not a clock? Like apparently the play clock was broken. So like calling a delay of game on Sam Houston when the play clock was broken, I thought was genuinely one of the funniest things I've ever seen in college football. Hilarious that the refs did that. Let's make sure I'm getting all the comments here. Blurt says big improvements. Oh, I already got that one from Blurt. Perry says, I think our poor performance made Idaho State look better than they are. Yeah, that's probably true. UNLV, again, in this game too, there were mental mistakes that gave up explosive plays. And I think what you're seeing with this Paul Gunther defense is that oftentimes he's willing to let guys play outside. He doesn't give guys, on that last touchdown that Idaho State got, sorry, that San Houston State got, there wasn't really anything, a safety blanket, a safety literally, in the backfield. Our DB was, one-on-one on the outside, and he went for the pass breakup instead of the tackle. And there was just a couple of plays like that, really dumb mental mistakes that our defense is still making. And again, our defense got a little bailed out tonight several times. The missed field goal, it was really sloppy. It was really sloppy. And again, I kind of like the progression of this team. Steven says it wouldn't surprise me to see Idaho State give UNM a game when they play later this. I didn't know Idaho State and UNM played later this year. That's interesting. Yeah, Idaho State impressed me. I mean, they're as good of they're a very solid FCS team from what I can tell. But I guess we'll see. Idaho State plays SUU tomorrow, which is generally a pretty good FCS program. Stephen also said, I will say I was glad to see some actual pressure on the QB tonight. Didn't feel like we got much against ISU. Yeah, so my first point of the game was that Jaden Bradley emerging as wide receiver one was outstanding. I was really happy to see him kind of take the reins a little bit. And my next point would be that I thought that the linebackers and the defensive line specifically, that unit as a collective. Now there were still mistakes, obviously, and certainly on the outside, the DBs, the corners, the safeties, there was tons of issues. I think still, but I thought that the linebackers and the defensive line as a unit collectively played much, much, much better, and were actually, I think, kind of good. Like now look, the Sam Houston team is not a world beater type team. But the linebackers in the line, when I was doing my film review of the Idaho State game, that was my biggest problem. I felt like the linebackers were getting caught in the mud. The defensive line was getting stuck to Idaho State's offensive line. People were shooting gaps too early in the wrong places. They were just in the wrong place. And tonight, despite the issues with the safety position and some of the DBs, my second point would be that the defensive line and the linebacker unit really looked solid. Again, there's plenty of things to clean up still, but to see that much improvement from week 0 to week 1 was remarkable. It was awesome. And so very proud of those guys. And I think that their pressure, I think that Gunther as a defensive coordinator, again, he made some mistakes, I think still. But Gunther was much better this week than he was last week. It did feel like UNLV actually prepared for Sam Houston State, whereas versus Idaho State, it didn't feel like UNLV actually even did prep at all, which was very disappointing. Whereas this week, again, lots of mistakes, but UNLV did prepare for this game and did prepare for this specific opponent. Last week, they didn't do that. Adrian asks, did Pope get injured or did he get benched? Because I did not see him after the first quarter. So he was jumping up and down on the sideline. We had in our, we noticed that he was moving around pretty well. I don't think that he was injured, but I don't know that for sure. The guy, I guess, that I'm more interested in and more worried about is Marcel McDuffie. He left the game. I'm not sure. I think sometime in the second quarter. He is our star middle linebacker. I think he plays middle linebacker. Some, depending on the formation, obviously. And he didn't come back into the game. He was out for a lot of it. And McDuffie dealt with injury concerns last season, specifically down the stretch. I think he got injured in the Kansas game, and then just when even when he came back against Boise State, just didn't look right the whole rest of the season. Even though McDuffie is a very talented player, and really, he's a team captain, one of our best returning players. The health of Marcel McDuffie, and again, I'm here in Utah, so I would love to be asking, about if McDuffie's hurt or not. But I'm never going to be a media credential person at all. I'm not interested in it, and I don't think the school would be interested in me being one either. So, and I don't really think that I don't think that's my place. There are other people that can do that and can do it very well. But I hope that somebody in this post game press conference, presser, whatever, can ask about McDuffie's health because he is critical to the defense. But a lot of guys. I guess let's pull up the stats here. So those are my two biggest takeaways were Jaden Bradley, and then I guess the third biggest takeaway would be that Anthony Calandria is clearly QB1, and he's a baller, man. I mean, he's an awesome player. And last night I was listening to the Boise State postgame show, which whenever a team I'm not, I guess a team that I'm rooting against a little bit, even though I don't harbor any ill will, but I'm rooting against them, and they were like, oh, Brown, Boise State's not going to play any quarterback nearly as good as USF's quarterback. And I would say that Anthony Calandria absolutely can be as good as USF's quarterback, and I think could be better, to be honest with you. But, still a long way to go before that matchup. I think that at the quarterback position, our team is in a really good place. RG X Factor Rebel says, yes, way better. Still question marks, but if we continue on this trajectory, we will be okay, I think. We have those nail biters and head scratchers, but better overall. Let's see, what else did we get tonight? Brian Smith said sloppy ball. Yeah, it was sloppy, definitely. Reminds me of the pre-Barry Odom era. I thought this was a Barry Odom-like win. I mean, it wasn't quite as neat as Barry Odom games were. But ultimately, Barry Odom had clock management issues. There were, Barry Odom was not perfect as a head coach. And so I think sometimes we only remember the good parts. But when I think back to games like Syracuse last year and Kansas last year, Barry was making a lot of mistakes too. And so, I think this game was it was good. It was good enough. Brian says, why is our secondary always horrendous? It's been this way for years. A lot of teams struggle with the secondary. The secondary is really tough. I think you saw last night, Boise State had issues with the secondary. Obviously, Sam Houston clearly had issues with the secondary tonight. And ultimately, secondary is tough because you're bringing in new players a lot every single year. There has to be really good communication between the guys in the secondary, and one little mistake can mess up everything and cause an explosive play. And so the secondary showed signs of improvement this week. I actually thought the secondary last week got better as the game went along. And maybe they fell back to earth a little bit compared to the end of how they ended the Idaho State game. But our secondary is not going to be great, guys. I mean, we're going to be vulnerable to downfield balls. Luckily, I don't know how many quarterbacks we're going to play. I mean, Nico Iamaleava next week against UCLA, that'll certainly be a game against a quarterback that can make a deep throw. Although, he's got a lot of questions, and I'm very interested to watch UCLA play Utah tomorrow to kind of see what he looks like. I don't know if I want UCLA to win that game or Utah to win that game. I think probably UCLA. I want them to win that game, obviously, I guess now that I think about it. But I'm very interested to see, our secondary is going to have issues, and there's going to be problems. I would say that for Gunther, I think it's important to give the secondary a little bit of a safety blanket. If you give up an 8 or 9 yard chunk play, it's not the end of the world, but it is the end of the world if you give up, if you're one on the outside and your guy messes up and goes for, like we saw tonight a couple of times, and the guy goes for a pass breakup instead of a tackle, and then you end up giving an 80-yard touchdown run pass or a 60-yard touchdown pass. I think that Gunther needs to be a little bit more conservative sometimes on his coverages. And not that he needs to give guys more space in front of them necessarily, but I think he needs to give more back end help sometimes with the DBs on the sideline. Um, yeah, I sure hope they improve too, Perry. Let's see. Yeah, Vegas, appreciate you, man. Good to see you on the stream. Yeah, Calandria did kill it tonight. Again, that one turnover, that one touch interception was probably just a bad decision. I mean, he should have just thrown away the ball. Sam Houston was bringing a lot of pressure up the middle, and he was flushed out to the side and just kind of threw it. I mean, if he just threw that a little bit more to the outside, it would have been okay. It probably wouldn't have been a completion, but it wouldn't have been a turnover. But Calandria, when we're asking him to do as much as we're asking him to do, because believe it or not, I mean, we're asking Calandria to do a lot, and he is doing it. He's very good. Then I just think you're going to have mistakes like that sometimes, and I would rather Calandria throw the ball and throw the ball with confidence than kind of be deterred from throwing the ball. So I have no complaints about Calandria's performance tonight. I thought he was outstanding. He is clearly QB1. I'm still glad that we have Alex Orji on the roster. I hope that we can keep him engaged. He's a great guy and a great teammate and consummate professional. But Calandria is just a good player, man. And Calandria and Dan Mullen together are an awesome combination. Yeah, I totally agree. Calandria's looked solid, and they're both going to be good. Yeah, the QB play. I've seen some people talking about comparisons between this year's QB room and last year's. And I was more down on Malik Williams last season than I feel like a lot of other Rebel fans were. Not that Hodge wasn't a good player, but I do like Calandria as a player more than Hodge. And Hodge was great. I have nothing against Hodge. I think he was a really good quarterback for us. And certainly I like Calandria more than Sluka, but Calandria can throw the ball downfield. And Hodge, you saw Ricky's numbers drop last year, and I think a lot of it was because Hodge just didn't quite have that deep ball that Calandria does. And I actually like Calandria just as much, if not more, as a runner too than Malik Williams was last season. I think Calandria's a bit more decisive, but Calandria still has issues. He holds onto the ball too long in the pocket sometimes, and he can make some bad decisions. But I would rather him be a gunslinger and have confidence in his play than play scared. So let's see any more here. Third quarter, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, and this is a great point, Perry. Thank you so much for saying this because I wanted to get this. The way that UNLV's schedule ended up working out with week 0, Idaho State, tons of issues in that week 0 game. And coaches always say that the biggest improvement that you see is from week 1 to week 2, or in this case, week 0 to week 1. UNLV starts out against an FCS team, a good FCS team, I think, an FCS team, and is able to realize that they have some big glaring kind of they're basically able to plug some gaps, plug some holes in the ship that is sinking, and they're able to use that game and get confidence going into the second game. And then in the second game, they respond and they look a lot better. Again, still plenty of things to clean up. But going into this UCLA game, they will have 2 games of experience together, 2 games of tackling, a game where they had serious questions presented about them, and then a game where they answered those questions. And that is going to give this UNLV team. Now, I'm still favoring UCLA in this game. Ultimately, I think UCLA is, just going to be a point or 2 better, but it's a toss-up game. UNLV could beat UCLA, absolutely. And so these 2 games working together in concert are going to give this UNLV football team a lot of confidence heading into week 3. Or week 2, I guess. And also something that's very important, the Rebels winning this game in this type of fashion, and it was a comfortable win. It was a convincing win. I think will quell some of the doubts and maybe the people that said, maybe I shouldn't go out to the UCLA game. Maybe I shouldn't come to Allegiant Stadium on September 5th. And maybe some of those people will look at this score, will have watched this game and say, actually, you know what? Like week 0, it was kind of fluky, whatever. It's week 1, first week of the season. I'm gonna go out to this game to Allegiant Stadium and I'm gonna support these guys. This game meant a lot to quell the doubts, to bring down the anxieties, and to give the city and this team confidence heading into this Big Ten matchup on September 5th. And so even though that week zero game was very clunky, and this week one game was very clunky, the Sam Houston game was very clunky, it really has worked out to UNLV's benefit because they've had 2 weeks to figure stuff out. And they definitely went a little vanilla in the second half. Maybe they were trying not to show things to UCLA on tape, which I think was kind of dumb. Just go out and win games. I mean, that's it's not going to change the result of next week's game if you do well in the second half versus Sam Houston. But I'm very happy with how this schedule has worked out, and I think Mullen's happy. And something that I think was interesting is I was at the Idaho State game. I was not at this game. I'm hoping to get to some road games this year. Definitely the Boise State game, and maybe the probably the Ohio game as well in Cincinnati or near Cincinnati. But Mullen seemed angrier and more intense and more harsh on his team in this game than he did last week when we were down a touchdown to Idaho State in the fourth quarter. I actually thought Mullen showed more fire and more guys, come on, get it right this week than he did last week, which I thought was very interesting. Um, let's see, am I missing any? Third quarter play calling too conservative. Yeah, Mullen looked upset. Yep, he definitely did. UCLA is going to be tough, but I think we can put together a good environment. Hopefully, we can get. I think I think maybe 50,000 is definitely too much, but I'm hoping that the school can get 40,000 plus people out to this UCLA game. And there's going to be a fair amount of people supporting UCLA and just people coming to see the game regardless because of the Nico Iamaleava situation. So hopefully we can put a good crowd together. Let me see. Perry. Discipline. Discipline is still what's hurting this team. 50 yards, 50-yard touchdowns on 4th and 1 is unacceptable. Yeah, guys, there's still room to grow here. I totally agree, Lucky man. I think you're completely right. There's still there's still discipline issues. There's still scheme issues, but we did show improvement. Like we showed substantial improvement, and we won the game. And I think that there's still a lot to build on. And so we just need to use this experience from week 0 and week 1, and put together the best possible performance for this week 2 game. Bradley is as an NFL caliber wide receiver. He has the body of an NFL caliber wide receiver, man. I totally agree. Yeah, let me see. The middle is always open. That's the trade-off. Yep. I mean, listen, man, it's going to be tough. Jaden Bradley is special. I totally agree. And yeah, Steven agrees with me. I totally think Mullen was absolutely more upset. Was more upset about this game, I think, than he even was about the Idaho State game. I think he just he knew his team was unprepared for Idaho State and just wanted to get the win and get out of there. And you should never apologize for winning. And also, I just think, after what happened to Boise State last night, I think it was just important that we won this game. Even if we won by a field goal, we just had to win. Just to keep, not that beating Sam Houston is going to give UNLV a ton of national spotlight or attention, or people are going to think that we're great all of a sudden now. But what it will do is keep the spotlight on Boise State and away from us while we prepare for UCLA. I'm grateful that we were able to pull it out. I'm very grateful. Let me see. Am I missing any comments here? Yeah, I haven't seen what's going on with San Jose right now. I don't know if San Jose's down now. I think did San Jose just miss a field goal? They have the ball. I think Central Michigan just took the. I don't know. Did San Jose just miss a kick? Is that just what happened? Let me see. Sorry, I just want to see. Oh no. So Central Michigan just hit a field goal. Okay, interesting. Um, so Adrian, I would say that, and we're going to be closing this one out a little bit because my computer's going to die. And I'm up here in the mountains in Utah. Luckily, I do have Wi-Fi. Jet Thomas is a little hobbled. He's definitely playing still. He's definitely still healthy enough to play, but he's dealing with a little bit of I don't know if he pulled something. I'm not quite sure what happened, but in that 70-yard touchdown run that he had last week, maybe he came up a little hobbled. And so Kevon Lee, I guess I do need to talk about Kevon Lee. tonight he had an outstanding performance. I thought that after a really rough week one, Kevon, the transfer from Penn State, looked like a legit running back that can help back up Jet. And I guess kind of to close this out, I guess we'll take a quick look at the stats and maybe just talk about what we see, what we like, and then tomorrow we'll get PFF grades, or I don't know if it's tomorrow or Sunday or Monday, but we'll get PFF grades soon. And we'll be able to see Anthony Calandria was 19 of 23, which is amazing. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Again, that interception, yeah, I feel bad for him. He shouldn't have thrown that ball. I mean, but it doesn't detract from the game that he had. 19 of 23 is outstanding. And Jaden Thomas, 9 carries, 65 yards, 7.5 yards a carry for a touchdown. He had a 27-yard run to kind of to end the game. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see more carries out of Jet, but ultimately, I feel like they're conserving him a little bit for that UCLA game, which they should. Kevon, 7 carries, 42 yards, 6 yards a carry. He established himself, I think, over Jalen Glover as number 2 running back tonight, although they're still, I think Jalen and Darian, I don't know about Darian Jones. He kind of got some yards at the end of the game more so. But I think Jalen Glover will get another chance before he gets kind of buried in any sort of depth chart. So yeah, the running game was solid tonight. Not spectacular, but 155 yards. That's not bad at all. It's fine. Jaden Bradley, 125 yards, 49-yard catch, 1 touchdown. Outstanding game from him. JoJo Earl stepped up tonight. I talked about that. He, he's a kind of a slot receiver. He did have a hold that I was mad about. I thought he should have, not. There was no need to commit that penalty there. But JoJo Earl was a previous 5-star player, a very good player, and I'm really hoping that he can contribute to this offense. And it was good to see him get 66 yards tonight. The rest of the receivers, not a ton. Glover seems to be better as kind of a release valve than as like a straight running back downhill player. He seems to be better in the receiving game than he is in the passing game. A guy that I'm disappointed in right now is Troy Omier. He was kind of seen in my eyes as the clear wide receiver 1 coming into the season. And he was the one, obviously, like I said earlier, that fumbled that onside kick. And I'm hoping to see more out of him. I think he's better than that. I think he's a very good player, and only 1 reception for 4 yards. That's just not enough. And I hope we can get him involved more. The UNLV defense, Fulton, he was great tonight, Trey Fulton. In terms of tackles for loss, we did have several. We did have some sacks tonight, which is not something that we did. Shout out to Justin Flo. He's just a great player. I'm really proud of him, that he's contributing, and just seems like a fun guy. I just love having him on our team. McDuffie, hopefully he's healthy. I thought the defense played better, but again, there's still a lot of room to grow. So, guys, that is pretty much all that I have tonight. I hope I didn't miss any comments. Want to make sure I didn't miss any. But I'm gonna close it out there, guys. Things are okay. Kicking game was a lot better. But there's still room to grow in the special teams. I said this earlier. I think that McDuffie. I'm worried that McDuffie's hurt. I don't think that Pope is hurt. Paul Gunther needs to stop putting guys 15 yards off the line, especially when it's 5 yards or less. He actually does it every time. Yeah, he seems to keep his DBs pretty far off the line. I get why he does it. I'll see how it goes next week. I'm interested in seeing how that is. Do I feel much more confident in the UNLV rematch versus Boise State in the Mountain West Conference? I don't feel like I know enough about either team. I'm going to give Boise not a pass. I mean, that was a bad performance, but I'm going to give Boise some time to develop into the team that they're going to be. And this UNLV team, I don't feel like I know exactly what their ceiling is yet. I still have them at 8-4. But winning this game was a big first step to getting to that record. I have UNLV being very competitive in the Mountain West, maybe making the Mountain West championship game, depending on how the matchups run out. Boise State looks a lot more vulnerable without Ashton Genty, though. So, I mean, UNLV's got a shot, but it's going to be tough winning in Boise. If it was in Vegas, I feel like we could all be a little more comfortable about UNLV's chances. But considering that it's in Boise, it's really tough to win there. I guess we'll see, and I want to see where these teams are going to be 4 or 5 weeks from now. I just don't think we know that yet. All right. Any other things? Yeah, they'll definitely be a bowl team, Brian. They'll definitely be a bowl team. Guys, this was a great game. I'm happy as a fan tonight, and you should be too. Life is good. We can all sleep easy and watch a great day of Saturday football without being too stressed. That's my favorite thing. We all get to watch Ohio State, Texas tomorrow, and our team won, and we're good. Our team didn't embarrass the conference. I think San Jose State might be about to lose. And we didn't. So life's good. Guys, thank you so much for checking out the show tonight. I am so happy to be back. I'm so happy that we have football back. We will be live pre and post game of every game this season, basketball and football. So please make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, to the Twitter account, to the Substack, and let's run.